tips, tricks, my toddler hacks on how to handle the terrible twos and the three teens as we call them. They are such blessings, but let's be honest, it's not easy raising up these little humans. Both choices result in bedtime, but it allows her to have a little bit of control in the situation. Next time you're feeling frustrated, you can do X, Y, and Z. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Allie and I am a mom of two. I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and in today's video, I'm sharing all the goodness with you. I'm going to be sharing my tips, tricks, my toddler hacks on how to handle the terrible twos and the three teens as we call them. These are all hacks that I use on the daily to make life more manageable, more bearable, more enjoyable. Like, we all love our toddlers. They are such blessings, but let's be honest, it's not easy raising up these little humans. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel at any point if you're enjoying today's video, and give it a thumbs up so I know. And without further ado, let's get into the video. Number 1, recognize that there is beauty and difficulty in each stage of your child's life. It really never gets easier, it just gets different. My daughter was a very challenging baby. She cried all the time and she's always had poor sleep habits. And I thought to myself, maybe I'm gonna luck out and have a really easy toddler because I had a really hard time with my newborn. But no ma'am, that was not the case. I did not have an easy go through the toddler stage as much as I hoped I would have. Newborn, toddler, they're both difficult. They're just different. There is always gonna be obstacles in your child's life, whether they're 2 or 3 or 7 or 14 or 18. There's always challenges. It's just, they're very different. I know that one day I'm not gonna have to deal with my toddler's tantrums that are associated with bedtime, but I might have a bigger issue on my hands. I might have the issue of my teenager sneaking out of her window like I did when I was a teenager, and that is going to be a whole other challenge. So you really just have to live every season and every age. You just have to take it for how it is and learn to find the beauty in each and every day and each stage of your child's life. It is really easy to get overwhelmed and stressed out during this toddler era, but if we let this negativity just consume us, we can turn into a parent that we would have never wished we would have ever become. And you become somebody who you don't even recognize anymore. So you really need to focus on seeing the beauty in each and every fleeting moment, because it's gonna pass far too fast. Number 2, we need to be more like our children. We need to learn from them. Children are so pure and content with life. They take notice of the little things and they get excited over the littlest things. Adults can be so hard to please and so hard to excite. If we pay more attention to our kids and how they view the world, I think that they can teach us a thing or two. God is very clear that children are blessings, not burdens, but far too often parents are treating their children like a burden. We try to teach our kids how to be like us when in reality, we need to be more like them. So during your day, try to focus on what you can learn from them, not only on what you're gonna teach them. Number 3, never lie to your child about a reward or a boundary. It has to be something that you are capable of doing and willing to do, and not a future promise. A great example of this is when a parent is trying to get their child to leave a store or leave a playground or leave a family's house, and their child does not want to go. So the parent says, okay, bye, I'm leaving. And they try to trick their child into thinking that they're gonna be left alone by themselves. But the truth is a parent will never actually leave their child stranded alone in a public space. It's just not acceptable. And I have literally seen this at the park near my house. It was so funny in a way. I understand because I am a parent, so I understand how hard it can be. But the mom was like, okay, come, come, come. And the child didn't want to go. So she's like, okay, bye, I'm leaving. And she got all the way to her car. She went into her car and she waited there for her child to come. And the child called her bluff, did not move from the playground. So the mom had to march out of her car and go get her kid and drag his butt to the car. I know that parenting toddlers can make us do some crazy things, and sometimes we are just at a loss for what to do or how to handle a situation, but you always have to be truthful and you always have to stay true to your word. Another example is like, if you're trying to get your toddler in the car and you're like bribing. No judgment here, I have bribed my toddler. That is something I never thought I would do prior to becoming a mom, and now I definitely bribe. So if you're gonna say, if you get in the car, I'll give you a sucker. Well, you have to make sure that you have a sucker to give them and that you give it to them. It can't be a future promise. You have to give them the sucker if they get in the car. If you bribe, you have to follow through. It shows your child that they can rely on your word and that they can trust what you say. If you don't follow through with your word, your child is very quickly gonna pick up on the fact that your word holds no value to them. Number 4, have go-to phrases and words for anything and everything. Using repetitive phrases and words that you just have in your back pocket, it helps us as parents know how to respond properly to a variety of situations. For example, my daughter, she always wants to be with me and she has a really hard time anytime I have to leave her. She gets quite upset. So what I've been saying for a long time now is I say, I will never leave you forever and I will always come back. And now, anytime that she has to leave her baby brother, she's always going up to him and saying, don't worry, baby, I'll never leave you forever, I'll always come back. Alethea, she just started going to a daycare this month. It's her first time ever in childcare, and I thought she was gonna have a really hard time transitioning, which she has not. She has been loving it, and every time I go to pick her up, she gives me a big hug and she says, see, mommy, I'll never leave you forever. So she has really stuck onto that phrase, and she's found comfort in that phrase. Another example is that my toddler has always really struggled with both going to bed and staying asleep until the morning time. So what we have been saying to her is, the sun has gone to bed and the sun is up. This allows her to visually see and identify night and day. I will give a third example just because I feel like there's so many examples I can give. But another one is when we go out in public and we go into a store and I don't want her touching every single thing she sees and risking breaking something, we always use the same phrase. I say, look with your eyes, don't use your hands. This is helping her learn self-control when it comes to her hands. Number 5, trouble with getting dressed? Well, let your toddler choose what to wear within reason. Our style and our envision for what our child's style may be might not sit well with their personality and how they feel on the inside. My daughter loves dresses and only dresses, and in the winter months, she will refuse to wear pants and t-shirts and sweaters and normal winter attire. So what I do to accommodate to her love for dresses is I will winterize her summer dresses to make it warmer. I do so by layering with undershirts and long sleeves and tights and pants and socks, sweaters, all that fun stuff, so she can still wear her dress which she feels the most confident in and the most herself in. Number 6, give your toddler choices with making no not an option. So for example, do you want mommy or daddy to put you to bed? Both choices result in bedtime, but it allows her to have a little bit of control in the situation. Do you want to wear a yellow dress or a purple dress? Either option will result in getting ready for the day, but again, she has some control. Another great example of this is when we leave the house and we're taking the stroller with us. My toddler tends to always want to be carried, but that's not an option. She is either allowed to go in her stroller or walk, because I can't possibly carry her and push a stroller at the same time. Sometimes she doesn't want to make a decision, and that's okay too. Sometimes, just like adults, how we get decision fatigue, toddlers may get decision fatigue. So I also give her the option, do you want mommy to pick for you? And sometimes she'll say, yes, mommy, pick for me. And I'll shove her in the stroller. Number 7, do not try to teach and preach in the middle of a big emotion or tantrum. Try to say as few words and as few phrases as possible during the heat of the moment. Once they're calmed down, you can approach them and say, mommy needs to talk to you. Sit them down on your lap in a quiet environment with no distractions so you can have a heart-to-heart. Be sure to acknowledge their emotion and how they felt in the situation. But the key is, the most important part, is to teach them ways that they can handle their emotion better in the future. You have to lay down boundaries and expectations for your child. For example, you can say, I know you were feeling very frustrated when I took that item away from you. However, it is never okay to hit mommy. Our hands are not made for hitting. However, next time you feel frustrated, you can do X, Y, or Z. I love emotion charts for that reason. We've actually moved recently, so I need to find them and put them back up on my wall because they are so helpful. Your toddler can visually see on the emotion chart how they're feeling, and then they can identify a way or a few ways that they can handle that emotion. I gotta say, even adults struggle with handling their emotions. So we as adults need to work on how we regulate our emotions and how we handle our emotions so that we can be a good example for our toddlers. Something I struggle with my patience. So I've been really trying to just focus on being patient so that when I'm overwhelmed, I can listen to some worship music, or I can take some deep breaths. I need to also, be that good example for my child. Number 8, do you got a picky eater on your hands? If so, I have the solution. Involve your toddler with meal prep as much as possible. It really doesn't matter what you're making, your toddler can be present. This is why I would always recommend a helper stool so that they can reach the countertop and see what you're doing and help you, or even just watch you. This way they will have plenty of time to explore the food prior to it actually being on their plate. During meal prep, toddlers will often taste the food because for them it's a less intimidating environment for them to eat rather than being stuck at the dinner table and not being able to move. My daughter loves to eat raw veggies as I cut them, which I'm so happy about because then later on during our actual meal, I don't have to stress about her finishing all of her vegetables because I know she already got her veg in. Number 9, allow your toddler to be as independent as possible. Don't underestimate their abilities. They are smart. There is no reason a toddler can't learn how to put on their coat, put on their PJs, put on their own shoes. The younger you teach them these basic life skills, the easier life will be. It also boosts their confidence and makes them feel proud. Sometimes adults are in such a rush and they think that it's just easier and more convenient to do everything for their child. But it doesn't teach them anything. I hear my baby awake. I'll be right back. Okay, where was I? So, a great example of this independence I'm talking about is let's say you're leaving the house and you're in a rush and you're put your shoes on. And then you notice your toddler isn't putting them on right or they're struggling and you're fine, I'll just do it myself. That doesn't teach them anything. Yeah. It doesn't teach them anything, and it's also very discouraging to them for them to get interrupted and for you to do it for them. The truth is our children, they don't need to hurry up. We need to slow down. We don't need to be in a rush all the time. We need to learn how to manage our time and adjust around having a toddler, knowing that things are going to take a little bit longer and allowing for that time because it's a teaching moment and Are you gonna get in the way? Yeah, it would be very draining, I would imagine, and very emotional if a child felt like they were always holding up the group. They might start to feel like they're a nuisance or a burden if we're always rushing them. Toddlers don't yet have an understanding of time, and they're probably wondering why the world and every adult is always in such a rush to get to and fro. They're just living their life, and they're continuously expected to just fly by the seat of their pants. So slow down and take the time to actually teach them so that they can have some of their independence. Number 10, avoid directly saying no and try to negotiate in a more positive manner. This applies if you're trying to get your toddler to do something they don't want to do, or if you're trying to get them to stop doing something they are doing. So try to keep words and phrases as positive as possible to avoid any tantrums. So for example, let's say your toddler is having a tantrum because they want to watch TV. Rather than saying, no, you're not allowed to watch TV, try this. You really like watching TV, don't you? Yeah, me too. You know what we should do? We should get outside and move our bodies so that tonight, when our body is rested, we're able to sit down and watch a show. Does that sound like a good idea? And then it's like a way to stay positive and stay excited, rather than just like saying no and like all hope is lost and then they have a meltdown. Another really good example of this is if your toddler wants like treats and sweets before they have their supper. So my toddler is always asking for ice cream and cookies before she's had her meal. So rather than saying, no, you're not having treats right now, we say, yeah, treats are really yummy, aren't they? I agree. Let's see how fast we can eat our supper so that we can have a treat. My point isn't the fact that like we should always avoid no. I think there's just sometimes a better way to approach a situation. I like to save the word no for very serious matters. So if they're about to touch something that is dangerous, I say a very firm no. It grabs their attention and they know that I'm serious. I also use no if they're doing something that is just like very unacceptable, like biting or hitting or hurting somebody, then it's a very firm no. Our mouth is not made for biting, or our hands are not made for hitting. Number 11, out of sight, out of mind. If you find your toddler having a tantrum about the same thing time and time again, then try to problem solve. For us, TV was doing more damage than good. My toddler would have numerous tantrums on the daily because she wanted to watch TV, and we do limited screen time at our house. So at one point we literally had to remove the TV from the living room and put it down in the basement, and once it was out of sight, it was out of mind. She no longer thought about it, and she got back into like a healthy routine of playing and crafting and wanting to go outside. Her behaviors got better, so it worked really good for us. Another example of this is when it comes to our pantry. I used to have all of her snacks on the lowest shelf, but recently she discovered that she has the ability to go help herself. And although that promotes independence, I don't want her snacking all day because she's not going to get her healthy meals in. She would go in the pantry and just help herself to everything and everything. I'd go put the baby to bed and I'd come downstairs and she'd be eating a bag of chips on the couch, and I'd be like, no, Alethea, you can't help yourself. And then I would have to take the chips away and she would have a tantrum. So I had to rearrange the pantry, and now all of her snacks are on the highest shelf, hidden behind everything, and at her level, what she can see is like potatoes and quinoa and rice. And again, no more tantrums. So if something is causing a continuous problem and doing more harm than good, just try to remove it from the equation. Okay, number 13, my next point has to do with bedtime. You've probably heard numerous times in today's video that my toddler has had an extremely hard time when it comes to sleep. We never did sleep train either of our kids, and we will actually lay down with them until they fall asleep, and then we'll leave the room. And there was a good chunk of time there, probably 3 or 4 months, where our toddler would not fall asleep. We would be laying down beside her for a good 3 hours and she'd be wide awake. And we were so desperate for some alone time, some adult time. Every parent loves bedtime because you do need a little bit of a break. So we were dedicating our entire evening to putting her to bed. So you're probably wondering, well, Allie, what is your golden advice? What are you gonna say? And that is, don't be afraid to take your toddler out of their room and put them in your room. I know that's gonna be kind of like a controversial topic because once you take them out of their room, you kind of break that boundary and it might be hard to come back from. But for us, it was very positive. She came in our room, she started sleeping like an angel. She had no more anxiety about bedtime. It was so pleasant. She fell asleep fast. She stayed in our room for a good 2 months. And then when we were putting her back in her room, we thought, uh-oh, this is gonna be terrible. But it really wasn't. We just said, hey, how about we have a sleepover in your room? And she was all for it. So I think the lesson to learn here is that sometimes we just have to not be afraid of breaking those boundaries with our children and kind of falling out of routine, because it might actually be beneficial and it might just give them that comfort and security that they need. And it did. I definitely would recommend. Number 14. If you want your toddler to be in a good mood and to be pleasant and to have less tantrums and big emotions, you gotta keep them busy. They can't be getting bored. If your toddler is staying home every single day just in front of the TV or playing with the same few toys or not having any social interaction and hardly interacting with you as a parent, they're going to act out from boredom. You need to take your kids outside regardless of weather at least once a day is my recommendation. That may seem outrageous, but I swear by it. You don't have to take them out, for a long period of time. Even if it's just a quick walk around the block, take them out once a day. We love to go to parks, but if it's really cold outside, we'll go to the pool or an indoor playground or to the grocery store or to run an errand. It can be anything. It can be anywhere. Just take them out, be out of the house. It's not good to be cooped up inside, staring at the same 4 walls every single day, playing in the same playroom with the same people. That sounds awful, right? So we have to stimulate our kids enough and give them an enjoyable day so that they're in pleasant moods. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, number 15. One thing a person may praise you for doing is the same thing that another person is going to judge you for. This applies to anything and everything. Some parents are all for early bedtime, and if you tell a parent, yeah, I put my kid to bed at 6 o'clock, they're like, that's awesome, good for you. And another parent will think that that's absolutely absurd and they'll judge you for it. Breastfeeding versus formula. I breastfed my daughter for 18 months. And some people were like, that is amazing, good for you, I could never do that. And other people were like, saying really crazy things about how breastfeeding long term is going to be bad for my baby and that when am I going to stop. So there's always people who are going to judge you and always people who are going to praise you. So you just need to know that that's the case and just relax. Be confident in your decisions as a parent. Do your research, have conversations with your spouse about what kind of parenting strategies you're going to do, and be firm in those and be confident in those. And there's not necessarily like a right or wrong. You just have to be confident, and we're all trying our best to be the best parents that we can be. And so that is the end of today's video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching my video. Remember to subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed. Give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed. Give this video a thumbs up, and we'll see you in my next video. Bye!